Algebra 2 Cram, New York State, Algebra 2 Regents, Common Core, Polynomials, Question 8, Factor by Grouping. Inbox me at memedicine@gmail.com to order your complete Cram session. Question 8, Polynomials. Factor completely. 3x raised to 3 minus x squared minus 12x plus 4. Definitely press pause if you need to, and I'll give you a moment to think. All right, so this is a 4-term polynomial. A polynomial of 4 terms is sometimes called a quadrinomial, but technically you don't really need such words, okay? That's because the number of terms in a polynomial is not as important as the highest degree or the overall degree of the polynomial. But in this case, where we have a polynomial of 4 terms, it's worth noting that this is a quadrinomial simply because there's a special technique for factoring that involves grouping and then extracting greatest common factors, GCFs for short. Okay, so when factoring a polynomial such as this, you have to write it in standard form. Standard form meaning the highest degree term is written first, and then the following terms are of descending exponential value. Okay, so this is already done for us, and now all we have to do is to begin our grouping process. So to begin, we're going to group the first 2 terms, the first 2 highest degree terms, and that's 3x raised to 3 minus x squared. Okay. First, we're looking at the lower degree term, and then we're going to do a quick visual scan of the higher degree term, and we notice that it's possible to factor out x squared, so we're going to go ahead and do just that. And that leaves us with x squared times 3x minus 1, and if you want to check, x squared times 3x is 3x raised to 3, and minus x squared, well, minus 1 times x squared is x squared, so that checks. Next, we're going to encapsulate minus 12 and plus 4. So visually, I know this looks a little awkward, but this is what it looks like, okay? And again, we do a quick visual scan of the lowest degree term, which is x to the 0, with a coefficient of 4, and negative 12x or minus 12x. Well, we notice here that we can factor out, let's see. We can factor out a 4, okay? And the reason why I'm factoring out a 4 is so that I can end up with 3x minus 1 over here. I should have never encapsulated the minus sign inside the parentheses. So let's just scratch that out a little bit and pretend that it looks like this. And so we have our minus sign out here, all handy dandy. And now we're okay with just factoring out 4 alone. And we end up with this, okay? We end up with x squared times 3x minus 1 minus 4 times 3x minus 1. Well, notice here that we have a binomial, and we can do another step of factoring out. We see that in the first term, and the 2 terms are separated by the minus sign, we have 3x minus 1, and that term is also common to the second term of the binomial, so we can go ahead and factor that out, and then we're left with x squared minus 4. Okay, catch your breath. I know this is a little daunting. Well, what's awesome about this expression is that it's the difference of 2 perfect squares, and we can apply the difference of perfect squares technique in order to factor the second term, okay? And the nice thing about the difference of perfect squares is that it has 2 sets of factors, and the values of the factors are the same. It's just that they're conjugates of each other. So the only difference is going to be a minus sign separating the two terms of one conjugate, and then a plus sign separating the two terms of the second or first, or vice versa. I know I'm confusing you a little bit. And notice, in order to factor the difference of two perfect squares, all we did was take the square root of this first term, write it out in both sets of parentheses, and we took the square root of the second term, wrote it out in both sets of parentheses, and we just separated each root by a plus or minus sign. And these are our factors, okay? So we can go ahead and apply this technique to x squared minus 4, which was the second factor that we ended up with. And we get x, and the square root of x squared is x, and we get 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So we just simply write that out and separate by a minus and plus sign. And the order in which this is written is not important, okay? Unless you're specifically told to do so. Thus, that's it. Therefore, the factors that yield 3x raised to 3 minus x squared minus 12 plus 4 is going to be 3x minus 1 times x minus 2 times x plus 2. All right? So lots of luck, lots of love, good luck studying. Thanks for tuning in.